Yeah, yeah. Good evening. Matinee വെബിനാറിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. Today we have a good speaker, particularly an ambassador of emotional intelligence, Mr. Matt, and his teacher, Mr. Ray, is available with us. And he is actually spreading emotional intelligence on the basis of positive mental health. Today we have part 1, and he is explaining AAA, that means awareness, acceptance, and action based on emotional intelligence and positive mental health. So today we are thinking about awareness, and next Saturday and coming Saturday, next Saturday we are working with acceptance and action. So on behalf of all, let me invite Mr. Matt for this session. So welcome, Matt. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I always think that's funny when you say welcome, Matt, because that's something that you step on. But anyway, never mind. Hi, good morning. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me again. And thanks for being aware and being interested in this super important subject with emotional intelligence, positive mental health. It's not funny anymore. It used to be nice to have skills, but now it's not funny anymore. This is serious stuff. And it's kind of survival mechanism. So it's really important. It's really important that everybody learn about it, because we don't know. We didn't learn about it in schools, and we didn't learn about it growing up. We got to learn about it now, and we need to share with other people, because nobody else knows either. They have no idea, and that's not cool, especially for kids. It's going very, very badly for people to not know about their emotions. It's going very badly. And so that's what we're here jumping up and down going, hey, this is important. This is important. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go ahead. Whoops. Can I please? And we'll go through some of this. Again, this is about awareness first. We got to be aware first. We have to be aware first. We got to be aware first. I try not to say we gotta, because everything is a choice. You don't gotta do anything. You don't have to do much of anything, but I highly recommend it. Strongly suggest that we do what we do, that you get better at this stuff. So, all right, here we go. Let me know you can see my screen, and then off we go. Yep.
It's coming, just coming.
Coming, sir.
Okay, good. How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Yep. Good. Okay, so this is positive mental health. Mental health has a kind of negative connotation to it, and that's real. It's very negative. There's a lot of problems, issues, pain, anger, disorders, all kinds of stuff going on, and that's real. What we're saying with positive mental health is that if we learn how to deal with our negatives, we can have better positives. We can create more positives. So we've got to learn how to deal with our mental health and turn it positive on purpose. Spin it to win it, I call it. Spin it to win it. You adjust it positive on purpose. So that all starts with awareness. It starts with awareness, then acceptance, and then you can take some action or not. That's up to you. But first, you got to be aware. And second, I say we need to be accept also. And we'll talk about that. But today, we're mostly talking about awareness. So goals for this series, for the whole series, that all three, what I'm hoping is that you'll learn a little bit about emotional intelligence. You may know some about it already. It's getting pretty popular, which I'm very happy to say. What I'm not happy to say is that it's getting popular because people are in pain. People are a mess. People are not doing good. The suicide rate and violence and abuse and divorce and addictions, all that stuff is rising. And all of those, in my opinion, you can't prove this, but all of those are based on us not knowing how to deal with our emotions. And that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. So I'm hoping to inspire you to learn more about yourself and others emotionally. It matters. So you know about emotional intelligence. That's about being smart with our heart, being smart with our feelings and such. Positive mental health are the strategies for making those things work, for putting them to work in our life. So they're action items, they're applicable, they're practical, they're how do we do this? All right, I got the idea. What do I do? How do I do this? So that's what we're hoping to give to you. That's the concept of positive mental health. Within positive mental health, there's those three areas: AAA, awareness, acceptance, action. I'm hoping to help you incorporate those into your life for the purpose of peace. The point of this is peace, right? The point of this is peace. And we start peace inside and then we go outside. That's how it works. We got to start peace from the inside. So that's, and to get to peace, we need to be peaceful, which means we need to know about our feelings. We got to deal with our negatives to get to peace. And then if enough of us maybe someday can be peaceful, we can then have big peace, maybe someday, maybe, right? Maybe. So that's why I'm here. That's the goal. And please, please, please share this with others. Please share it with others. So, I actually, this is for this session. Become more aware of being aware. Be aware of being aware. That's how it works. We're consciously conscious, awarenessly aware. I don't know what the word is, but be aware of being aware. Accept that there are many emotion-based parts of you. Accept that. Well, yeah, we'll do work more on accept next time, but be aware that our emotions are more important than we ever imagined. They really are. And I'm hoping to inspire you to become more cognizant of yourself. Share this with others. And the point of this whole thing is getting to global peace, starting with inner peace. That's the concept. So I hope that works. All right. Ray's not with us today, but I've been doing this for a long time. I've been teaching for 35 years or so. I research, I read this stuff, I write about it, I talk to people, I'm totally immersed in emotional intelligence and trying to figure this out. I found out a long time ago that I was so clueless, man. I was so clueless about how things work inside of me. So I started to find out like when I was 25 or so. So that was a long time ago. And I started to learn as fast as I could. And as I was learning, I found out that, surprise, nobody else knows either. I had no idea, and nobody else knows either. And so I started going, wait a minute, this is a bad thing. We need to know this stuff. And so here I am making a big deal out of it. So, and we started a nonprofit called Eq4Peace because I believe, and we believe, that to get to peace, we need to start inside of us with emotional intelligence. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. So let's start off with awareness, right? Awareness. First thing, I do this and try to do this in almost all my workshops. It's kind of a magical formula used by teachers and used by parents. Is just a very, very simple, what are you feeling? What are you feeling right now? It's super simple. Here's a slide with a bunch of words on it to help you. It helps to be able to identify, to name what you're feeling. That's step one, awareness, being aware of yourself and your stuff and what you're feeling. Put a name on it, name it to tame it, I call it, which means that a lot of times it feels better and you make more sense of yourself if you can identify what you're feeling. And we don't have much practice in this, so here we are. So practice, find a word or two or 12. You can feel a bunch of things at the same time, which is tricky, but it's true, so deal with it. So what are you feeling? Here's what we use for kids. One of the ones, I got a whole bunch of these in my book if you want to look at them. And so they're real simple for the kids to be able to identify, and the teachers go around the room and say, so what are you feeling? Name it in one word or two or three. What are you feeling? And it does awareness, acceptance, validation, identification, separation. It makes you feel like you're not alone. I don't know what that word is, non-isolation, because you notice that you're feeling the same as 2 or 3 or 10 other kids in the room. You go, wow, I'm not so weird. I'm not broken. I'm just having a feeling. It's okay. It's not that big a deal. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. And so we don't have to, if you're in the United States, you don't have to go shoot anybody because you're having a feeling, and you don't have to shoot yourself because you're having a feeling. You just have the feeling and then you let it go, right? It's not that big a deal. So and the question that seems to be helpful is, what are you feeling? Not necessarily how are you feeling, but what are you feeling? It gives if you say how, a lot of people give you a physical response. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. My knee hurts. I'm not feeling well. You get physical response. But if you say, what are you feeling? You get a more interesting response to that. So again, here's the premise. Here's the idea of the whole thing. World peace begins with inner peace. Dalai Lama said, through inner peace, genuine world peace can be achieved. Peace must first be created within ourselves and then gradually expanded to include our families, our communities, and the whole planet. The whole planet. That's where we're going with this, hopefully, the whole planet. So that's the point of our nonprofit, but we're trying to get to peace. It's the goal. A lot of people are about emotional intelligence, but I'm trying to say, and it's going toward peace. Let's all go toward peace together, and then maybe we can have some. Maybe we can create it, right? So awareness, again, the 4 components of emotional intelligence. They usually say 3: thoughts, feelings, actions. I added in there decisions, because in my opinion, decisions are one of the biggest areas that we have power. We have control. We have choices of what we decide. This is where it all comes together. We be aware of our thoughts. We be aware of our feelings so that we can make better decisions. That's our choice. And then we take better actions, right? Then we do better if we can make better decisions. If we just understand our thoughts only, we're not getting all the great information that our body can give us to make better decisions. We need to have our thoughts and our feelings. So we be aware of our feelings. That's what I'm jumping up and down about. Please be aware of your feelings. They're much more important than we thought, than we ever imagined, actually. So if we have cool thoughts, like when we're making the decision, if we have cool thoughts like, does this make sense? I ask myself, does this make sense? What I'm getting ready to do? And does it feel good? Does it feel right? We need both sides of our brain to be intact, and so that we can make better decisions. That's the awareness part. So we got to be aware of our feelings and our thoughts to make better decisions and take better actions. This think, feel, act, the Venn diagram is from 6seconds.org. If you want to learn a bunch about emotional intelligence, go to 6 Seconds, and they're the largest EQ trainer in the world, and they have some amazing amount of stuff on their website and available, and classes and assessments and certifications and all kind of good stuff. And that's where this graphic came from, except for I put the word decisions in the middle. So I think that's a critical piece to this whole thing. That's where we're at choice, says I. So 3 steps, again: awareness, acceptance, action. Awareness first, acceptance, and then we can take action or not take action, which means we decide not to do something. We decide not to blast somebody. We decide not to shoot somebody. We decide not to be vicious. We decide, and we take an action or we don't take an action. The cool part about that is that if you decide not to act, who's in charge there? Who's in charge there? You are, right? No action is a very real action, and it's a good choice, especially with high emotions. So we take no action is a good action. That's still you are in charge of you. That's what we're trying to get to, where you're in charge of you. So, so awareness, we're again, awareness. We have thoughts and feelings that those we take action, we can manage what we're aware of. It's the first key, awareness first. We can't do anything until we're aware. We can't do anything until we're aware, right? How do you don't even know what's going on? You don't know what we're even talking about until we're aware. We can't do anything. So it's really important that we become aware of more stuff, and that's what we're doing right now. Okay. We can't, yeah. So Doc Downing is my main mentor that I learned a lot of this stuff from. He said one of his hundreds of awesome quotes is he can quote things. He makes these quotes that are really simple, and they're like, oh, oh, right. He said, we cannot make logical decisions on things we're not aware of. Right. It's kind of like, duh, no kidding. But it's important. That means that awareness is first. Study after study has shown that EQ is one of the keys to happiness, our sanity, positive mental health, and success in life, bringing us passion, purpose, and power to our lives if we choose. I put that part on the end, but I like that. So become aware of yourself, your thoughts, feelings, actions, those around you. Acceptance, I'm not going to go into depth here, but acceptance is just means that you accept what's happening, accept that you had a thought, accept that you had a feeling, or fight it if you want to. It's your deal. It's your call. So it's up to you. You can accept what's happening, or you can change it. As Doc said, acceptance does not mean approval. It doesn't mean you like it. Doesn't mean it's okay with you. Doesn't mean you want it to continue. Doesn't mean you're even going to allow it to continue. But if you accept it first, you go, okay, that's how it is. It is how it is. Wayne Dyer said that. Remember him? He was fantastic also at really clear quotes. And he said, it is how it is, exactly as it is. That's the number one key to personal growth, he said. And I happen to agree with it. And it's hard to argue with, right? It's hard to argue with. It is how it is, right? It is. So, okay. Now, what do I do about it? That's a different story. But first, I got to know. I got to be aware and accept. There's so many things that we can't control, but there are some things inside of us that we can control, and we can accept responsibility for that. Accepting our thoughts, our feelings, ourselves, accepting other people's thoughts and feelings. Oh yeah, they're important to me. They're important to them as well. Action or no action. Once we become aware and accept, we can decide whether to take action or not. No matter how we think or feel, we get to choose how we act. I realized just not too long ago that we can think and feel whatever we want to. We can believe what we want. We can have values what we want. We can decide what we want. All this stuff is inside of us. But as soon as we take action, warning, now it's outside of us. Now other people are getting involved. Now we might have consequences. So knowing thought, feeling, action is cool, but know that thoughts and feelings are inside, and action is now we're going outside. And now, watch out. This is where things get real. This is where it goes out into the real world, and stuff happens. So I just realized that the other day, and I was just shocked that, like, oh yeah, I can think and feel whatever I want to, but when I act, oh, here we go. So we decide how to act. We commit to ourselves. We pay more attention to and accept what's going on inside of us. So let's talk about awareness. There's some things that it helps to be aware of, like emotional intelligence is the first thing. It's helpful to know about our emotional intelligence. It's about studying ourselves, you and me and we, right? It's a meta study. It's called it's us looking at us. It's you looking at you. It's thinking about what you're thinking about. That's metacognition. And meta emotion is feeling about what you feel about. How do you feel about how you feel? What do you think about how you feel, etc.? So it's us looking at ourselves, it's us looking at bigger picture, and it is us first becoming aware, right? We are aware that we have two sides of our brain, right? And we're also aware that one of them is our left brain is more logical and cognitive, and that's where most our culture and your culture, that's where we focus most of the time, is in our left brain, in our logic, in our reason, in knowledge, in information, so we can get a job. That's cool. That's good. We're good in left brain. We're good at left brain. You guys are, we're good at left brain, really good. And and there's a whole other side of us. There's a whole other side of us that we don't pay much attention to, that we are, in my opinion, need to increase, is our right brain, our feelings, our passion, our creativity, our ability to feel, to experience life, to have purpose and connection and love and some cool stuff like that, that is just as important as the left brain. So I'm saying that our left brain is good, our right brain not so good, right? Our EQ not so good, and we need to bring our right brain, our emotions up, our emotional intelligence and awareness up to match. I'm not saying we're better. I'm not saying more emotions are more important. I'm not saying intellect is more important. Both. We need both. So that's what we're doing here. More awareness is that this is Daniel Goleman. He kind of started the whole thing on emotional intelligence, and he's saying about self-awareness first. Self-awareness first, right? Exactly what I'm saying. Self-awareness first. The better I know me, the better I can know you, the better I can do, right? Of course, but it's really important that we start there, that we start with knowing ourselves. So know me first, self-awareness first. Then second, now that I know me, or as I know me, I can manage me. I can do better. I can make better decisions. I can take better actions. I can manage myself. Yeah, but first self-awareness, then self-management, then social awareness. Speaking of awareness, social awareness. What about everyone else? My thoughts and feelings are important to me. They're important to everybody else as well. If I listen to people's thoughts and feelings, if I care what people think and feel, guess what? They like that. They like it a lot. And my relationships are probably going to be better if I care what other people think and feel. If I don't, they're not going to hang around with me very long, are they? So that's the fourth one, is relationship management. If I'm aware of myself and my thoughts and feelings, and I'm aware of other people's thoughts and feelings, my relationships are undoubtedly going to be better, So try that. And it all starts with awareness. Here we are, awareness, right? Okay, here's a similar slide. I just made this silly thing with the circles because decisions are important to the whole thing, as I mentioned. So now let's talk about positive mental health. So emotional intelligence is the concepts, right? The facts about what's going on inside of us. Positive mental health is about what do we do with it? How do we deal with our negative emotions, especially, and so that we can create more positives like peace and love and joy. We can create those if we know how to deal with our negatives. If we don't know how to deal with our negatives, a lot of times what people do is squash down. You go, I can't feel anger. I can't feel afraid. I won't, not I can't, I won't. I won't. Notice the difference. Not that I can't, I can, but I won't. And that I don't allow that. I may be aware of it and not accept it and not allow it. And so what that does is squashes your feelings down so that you can't go here. Well, what turns out that if you squash down the negatives, you also are squashing down the positives. It limits both sides. And so it ends up being kind of flat, and you kind of boring, and you're kind of not very enthused about life and that kind of stuff, and it squashes things down. So if you can allow your negatives, if you can get better at dealing with your negatives, you can also get more positives, higher, stronger, deeper, more colorful, more aware, more vibrant, more love, more. It feels awesome. It feels awesome. And to do that, we have to be able to, in my opinion, have to create, be able to handle our negatives. So positive mental health is strategies to make emotional intelligence happen for you. It teaches emotionally healthy internal and external management. It says get good at your negatives and learn from them, learn from yourself so you can create more positives. So I like these hashtags because I'm not all that smart, and so I need things to be real simple and real clear, and so these things kind of sum things up for me. I like that. Such as purposeful positivity. Try saying that 3 times fast. Purposeful positivity, right? And that means being positive on purpose, like, for example, gratitude and thankfulness and appreciation are wonderful, purposeful positives. We are thinking of something, and it's something that we're happy about, that we appreciate, and it's positive on purpose, right? It's a conscious positive. So also exaggerate enthusiasm. That's what I do, as you can see. You may not want to look like an idiot like me, but I do exaggerate my enthusiasm because I want other people to increase theirs as well. And so I focus on the positives and make them big on purpose, and show people that there's positivity, there's hope, there's help. There's love, there's joy, there's peace is out there, or in there, actually, inside, and we can pull it out and we can have a good time with it if we want to. This does not have to be a drag. It does not have to be ugly or down. It doesn't. We can make it fun. Exercise optimism. A lot of people are pretty pessimistic and getting worse. From what I understand, there's some studies now on the overall view of people feel like they're pretty hopeless. That's why one of the reasons that the suicide rate is so high now is that people are fairly hopeless and they feel like it's bad and getting worse, and there's not much we can do about it, and it's not going to be fun, and they go, okay, I'm out of here. And that's just awful, right? It's awful. And it's because people don't know how to deal with their emotions, in my opinion. So we can actively exercise our optimism. Exercise optimism is one of the 6 seconds. They have 8 competencies, emotional intelligence competencies, beautifully put. You might read about them. I'm not going to talk about them right now, but go to 6seconds.org, the number 6seconds.org, and learn about optimism and some other cool stuff. So some of the concepts of positive mental health are give to live. It works. It feels great to be giving. Right now, I am giving this information to you. It feels wonderful. I love it. The more I give, the more I feel good. So it's not about, a lot of people say that giving is not about you. Bull. It very definitely is about you. It feels great, or we wouldn't do it. So we do it, and so do it a lot. And so it's a pretty magical thing about emotional intelligence is the more you give, the better it feels, and everybody wins. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win kind of deal. So give to live. Another, pursue noble goals. That's a 6 seconds one also. That's one of their competencies as well. Have something bigger than you that you're committed to. Like Dr. S has this wonderful Wings of Life thing going on. Probably feels great to you, right? It's pretty cool, and you have the goal of getting a lot of people to do better, feel better, be happier, kind of thing. It feels pretty cool, huh? I wish for everybody that they had a big, strong, noble goal like we do, because it's wonderful, wonderful thing. So find people to help, find ways you can give. It does not have to be money, by the way. You probably won't be money, so don't make that a thing. It's find other ways to be helpful, to help people smile, to help people feel better. EQ is free. Give it free. It's free to you. It's free to them. So, but it feels fantastic to matter, to care, to be engaged, to know that you are making a difference, to validate yourself. What are you here for? You know? So pursue a noble goal, find one. If you can't find one, you're welcome to use mine. Use ours. Our noble goal is to bring peace to people and to the world. So feel free to use ours if you can't find one, or just make one, make it up. That's what I did. Love to feel loved. Love to feel loved, meaning the more you love, the more you will feel loved. So again, it's a giving thing. The more you feel, you love other people, while you're doing it, you're loving, you're feeling loving, right? It feels super cool. So love to feel loved, give to live. It works really well. Positive mental health. Learn how to deal with your negatives. Learn how to deal with your negatives so that you can create positives. We can adjust them. We can spin it to win it. We can heal. We can heal. Feel it to heal it. We can do better. We can do better. We don't have to just come up to normal. If you know about positive psychology, Dr. Seligman from University of Pennsylvania said, wait a minute, we've been working with therapy and such to get people from deal with their problems and get them back to normal, back to zero, kind of. That's why I made this little graph. They go back to zero. And he said, wait a minute, we don't have to stop there. We can go positive. Positive psychology is about learning about yourself for the purpose of having more positives, right? Same thing with positive mental health. If we learn about the negatives, we can have more positives. We don't have to be just quote unquote normal. We can have joy and peace and love and resilience and perseverance and grit and success and happiness and intimacy and all kinds of cool stuff. We can create all of that stuff by learning how to deal with our negatives. So it's pretty important. This was a cool saying I found: to be the best, you must be able to handle the worst. Well, I don't necessarily want to be the best in too many things. A couple times I play racquetball and in competitive stuff. It's fun to be the best, right? It's important. But in life, I don't need to be the best. I don't need to be better than you guys. I don't need to be better than you guys. I don't care. I don't need that comparison at all. But now to be my best, oh, that's a different story. That's a different story. To be my best, I have to handle my worst. That's a whole different story. And that is true. That's inside of me. And I want to continuously improve. I still have a day job, and I'm a project manager, and we do what we call continuous improvement, which means get better, learn. How can we make this better, faster, smoother, clearer, less errors? How do we do better? And that's what I'm encouraging here. And that's what I'm hoping you're doing here. I assume you're here to find out more and to learn about yourself and learn better. So that's pretty cool. So good job for you. Congratulations. You're doing it right now. So we're creating inner peace, like I said, inside of us. We can create interpersonal peace between us. We can create social peace among us, inside and around us. We can do all of that with positive mental health. So this is part where these are Ray's slides, some of them. So I'll give them a try. But I kind of combined them in together. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but here we go. So this one's mine. All right. Be aware of your generalizations. This is a big deal, you guys. And I've been just studying about this and working on this one. Generalizations are how you think the world is, how you think life is, how you think you are, right? Big stuff like that. The life is scary, or life is, the world is unsafe, or I am lovable, or I am not lovable, that kind of stuff. Big generalizations, which are belief systems also, but watch out for them. Watch out for them. Be aware of them. This is about awareness. So become aware of what you have generalized about yourself and your life, because sometimes, well, the joke is all generalizations are wrong. Think about that. All generalizations are wrong, which I think is funny, but but it's kind of true. It's not necessarily true, but be careful, because once you have, a lot of times, and I've done this many times, is once I believe something in general, if something specifically doesn't fit my generalization, I don't even see it. I ignore it completely. It doesn't fit in. And sometimes that's a bad thing. I'm not seeing something because I've already decided how life is. And when it's not that way, then I don't even see it. It's kind of, I'll see it when I believe it kind of deal. So be careful and be aware of your generalizations. Learn about them. They're important. Be aware of your thoughts, of course. Be aware of your feelings and emotions. Yeah, right. Yep, that's the point, right? Be aware of your decision-making processes. How does this go on inside of you? Do you take into account what you're thinking and feeling? Do you? Is your decision-making process incorporate all of what your body wants to know and or wants to give you? Our body's giving us this wonderful information through our feelings, and we ignore it most of the time. Most people, because feelings are a bad thing. Oh no, feelings are bad. Emotions are bad, especially guys. Emotions are uncomfortable. Emotions are ugly. We were told, don't you dare feel, don't you dare express what you're feeling, right? We were told that emotions are a bad thing. And so we carry that with us. Well, guess what? We're finding out different. We're having to learn different, and emotions are not fun sometimes, and they're not comfortable, and they get ugly. And I'm sorry, that is true. And we need to deal with that too. That's part of our negatives. That's part of the positive mental health is that it is not, what's my saying is, it ain't always fun, but it's got to get done. It's true. It's ugly sometimes. Emotions can be some of the most uncomfortable thing you ever do. They can be some of the hardest thing you ever do. They're simple. They're real simple, but they ain't easy sometimes. And if that can be okay with you, if you can be aware that your emotions can be a problem and can be painful, then that and allow that. Sorry. Then allow that. Then you can do some cool stuff. You can learn more about yourself. If you never can be uncomfortable, then you get limited. Like I said, you close yourself down. So that can be a very serious problem, and it can limit yourself in ways that you're not even aware of sometimes. And triggers, be aware of your triggers. What does that mean? That means a trigger is some emotion and some big event that happened to you in the past. Something reminds you of it, or something connects with it, or something is near that same area in the present, and it causes your system to have much bigger emotions than you thought, than you felt, that is necessary. In fact, that's one of Ray's things is people feel more than it's necessary, and that's a problem. It causes them to just a second. I'm trying to get the link for Ray, and maybe he can get on. There we go. Hoping he can, because we're on his stuff now.
I'm here, Matt.
You're here. Oh, you're here.
Yeah.
Turn your camera on, bud. I can't see you. There you are. Oh, fantastic. Hey, Ray's here.
Woohoo. Okay.
Hey, Ray, introduce yourself, bud.
Okay, I'm sorry. I completely I didn't think about
It's all right,
December
go on.
16th. And I'm so busy being a grandparent that all of a sudden it dawned on me this morning, today is December 16th. I lost track of days here. So luckily I'm a volunteer paramedic in the past, and I'm used to going from sleep to 100% on the spur of the moment. As soon as the bell, and Matt woke me up this morning, I'm like, what? And then, oh my God, it's December 16th. So, anyways, so can I put my powers on the screen, or?
You're what? No, they're coming. Here it is. They're coming.
Oh,
I interspersed.
Okay, can I just put mine up though? It'd be easier.
I guess so.
Let me try to share mine.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing and Ray's going to share his. And so, yeah, so you're just going to talk on yours for a minute. Yeah, pause every
Yeah.
few minutes because some of your I have something to say about some of your stuff. So, because it's good.
Okay. Participants
All
can
right.
now see your screen. Okay, well,
We
gotta
can
get
see
my
your
screen up
Zoom.
here. Hang on. There you go.
There you go.
Is that the
There
right
it is.
one?
There it is.
Okay.
Yep.
All
That's
right,
the
let me
slide I was
get-
on. The next one is the slide I was on.
Okay, let me hear. Slideshow.
It's fine the way it is.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
okay.
Okay. Okay,
There you
so
go.
Matt asked me to talk about some things that it helps to be aware of. And what I tried to do is make a list of all the things that I use every day in my life that help me sort out what's going on and make things better for myself and others. And one of them is that emotion is energy to move. And it's evolved to help us deal with threats, and it helps us get what we want and need. Now, emotion's kind of a double-edged sword because it's helped humans survive and thrive, but it's also caused much needless conflict, suffering, and death throughout the world. It still is. Now, whenever you look at emotions, you always want to look at the frequency of it, the intensity and duration, the FID, and then decide whether it's helpful or not helpful. Now, too often people generate more emotion than is necessarily helpful. I learned very early as a teacher that was a real problem with all my students. Now, many problems are literally defined by generating too much emotion. For example, people have anger problems, they have anxiety disorders, and they have depression. I'm not sure why there's an EW at the end of that. Probably my grandchild was poking at the computer while I was trying to do this. One of the things I remember learning in my REBT training was that a person's behavior will tend to follow his emotions toward his life events. Now, as the FID, or frequency, intensity, and duration of emotion, increases, people become more reactive and they become less responsible. And I like to hyphenate that word because it means less able to respond in the best possible way, which makes sense because if you had a threat that was really a threat to life and limb, you wouldn't want to hesitate. You'd want to react, and you'd want to react with a lot of energy and a lot of strength and everything else to save yourself. So that makes a lot of sense. The problem is people perceive threats where they really don't exist and trigger that. Once you trigger this by perceiving a threat, it becomes automatic. You're on automatic pilot. Now, other problems are literally caused by or driven by too much emotion. For example, arguing, abuse, and violence. Now, the other way to come at this is behavior starts and continues because it serves a purpose. That's a basic psychological principle. Too much emotion gives purpose to all kinds of unhealthy behaviors. And that's one of the things I learned very early as a health education teacher. For example, smoking, drinking, using drugs. And one of the big ones nowadays is overeating. That's why we have such a big obesity rate. Food is a mood altering substance. Eating makes people feel good. It probably releases dopamine in their brains. Now, these behaviors give rise to other problems. For example, accidents, overdoses. We have a big problem with, what is it called? Opioid addiction in the United States right now. A lot of people are dying every day because of that. And obesity is another. Whenever time I go to a store, I mean, my God, the obesity rate's probably 60, 70%, it looks like. And then illness, premature death is another problem. Now, too much emotion can also cause people to have what Rudolf Dreikurs called mistaken goals. And first time I heard this model, I thought this is a great model. He basically observed students in classrooms, and then he postulated that when they misbehave, they basically have one or more of four mistaken goals. Well, what we mean by mistaken is they get something out of what they're doing, but by doing what they're doing, it makes it harder to get what they really want in the long run. Now, Dreikurs' model said that they have one of I can't talk yet. One of four goals: attention, power and control, revenge, or avoidance of failure. And he postulated that kids will actually move through this sequence and end up eventually at avoidance of failure. And that's why kids drop out of school, shut down, and eventually drop out. I added to his model, I added withdrawal, avoidance, and relief, because so many things people do have the mistaken goal of trying to withdraw from unpleasantness, avoid it, or get relief from the feelings that go with it. Now, one of the things about attention, very often people have what Ellis used to call a dire need for approval. When I was a kid, we used to hear, my grandparents used to always say negative attention is better than none at all. So sometimes people do a lot of things that are very negative, but in their mind, and in some ways, our former president is like that. He'll take any kind of attention. And there's that old saying from P.T. Barnum that there's no such thing as bad publicity, okay? Now, the thing I'll try to point out with power and control is that people often give away power and control over their own lives in trying to get power and control. They give others opportunities to do things to them that they otherwise wouldn't have. For example, if a kid talks back to a teacher, that gives that teacher, out of trying to have power somehow, that gives that teacher an opportunity to do something to that student that he otherwise wouldn't have. Or if you squeal your tires at a stop sign, that gives a police officer a chance to give you a ticket. And they also give away power and control to tobacco, things like tobacco, alcohol, and drugs. That's what happens when they have the mistaken goal of withdrawal, relief, and avoidance. Now, as far as revenge, there's a quote, a Chinese proverb: a man who seeks vengeance should dig two graves, one for himself and one for the enemy he seeks to destroy. Point being that in seeking vengeance, you often do what my grandparents used to say: you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. You end up hurting yourself in the long run more than you hurt the other people that you're trying to seek vengeance against. Now, a couple points I always try to keep in mind and be aware of with anger. Anger is emotional nitroglycerins. It's kind of like, I always think of the Incredible Hulk. Once people get angry, it's like you're on automatic pilot, and it's really hard to shut it down, just like it's hard for the Incredible Hulk cartoon character to shut his anger down. And that's why I really believe that we talk a lot about anger management. I think we should be striving instead for anger prevention. Because once you get anger, it's very hard to manage. There's an old saying about the horse being, closing the barn door after the horse is out. Well, once you're angry, it's too late. So I think it's very important to try to prevent anger instead of manage it. Now, I also always remember that anger gives a false sense of power, righteousness, permission, and protection. And that's why people will often like feeling angry, because it gives them all these false senses. That's why people who feel powerless are very attracted to anger. For example, young kids who feel powerless will often be angry a lot. A lot of the students I used to work with, the troubled students in schools, they like being angry because they gave them a sense of power when they felt powerless otherwise in school. It also makes people think, my mentor used to always say, you've ever been an angry person who thought they were wrong. And of course, once you're angry, you always think you're right. And that's why being angry, just being in an argument, it goes nowhere. It just escalates very quickly. It also gives you a false sense of permission. That's why we see people who are angry do so many really unhelpful and sometimes really inappropriate things. And the last part is, as long as I stay angry, then I don't have to feel those other feelings that I don't like feeling, like depression, sadness, guilt. I remember someone once told me the other side of guilt is resentment. For example, if you criticize an alcoholic, he might get very resentful because that's his way of covering up and protecting himself from the guilt. Now, anger comes from making demands of others, self, and life. And it comes from shitting on others and life, self, and life. And what I mean by that is, if you just want something and don't get it, you're probably going to be frustrated if you don't get it, or lose it, or somehow just imagine doing either. But what happens is people start to demand that, somebody has to do what I want. They have to be the way I want them to be. They can't talk to me that way, instead of I just don't want them to talk to me that way. Or they should do what I tell them instead of I'd like them to do what I tell them. And that's where anger comes from. Now, a little word about anxiety here. Anxiety, I think it's helpful to be aware that anxiety is a figment of imagination. And what we mean by that, it's about things that could happen, but haven't happened yet and often never do. And the formula for anxiety is catastrophize plus awfulize equals anxiety. First, you imagine something bad happening, and the ability to do that has served human beings throughout history. I mean, that's allowed us to survive and thrive, to be able to imagine possible threats in the future and try to avoid them. But the second part is you imagine that bad thing happening, then you tell yourself it won't only just be unpleasant, inconvenient, or uncomfortable, but it'll be awful, as in the worst possible thing that could happen. Now, anxiety comes from making demands of yourself and life before a life event. For example, a lot of times you hear people when they're stressed out will be saying, I have to do this, I have to do that, I can't let this happen, I can't. Or they'll be saying everything has to be perfect, everything has to go well, it can't go wrong. So they're making all these demands instead of just saying, I'd like it, or I want it to be, I want to do this, or I don't want to do this before. They'll be saying, I have to, or I can't. And instead of saying, I hope, or I wish everything would go well, they're saying everything has to and can't go wrong. Now, one of the essences of anxiety for people who are being really stressed out is basically they're saying, I have to do everything perfectly and be perfect all the time. And that's a real setup for having a lot of stress. Now, I also try to remind myself that shame is an important feeling that people struggle with a lot, especially young people that I deal with in schools. Shame comes from believing you're not living up to your own or others' expectations. It comes from shooting on yourself after life events. For example, saying, I should have done better, I shouldn't have done that after the fact. Now, people can get into a vicious cycle of anxiety before life events and shame afterwards. And they do that by making demands of themselves or life before life events and shooting on themselves afterwards. For example, I have to do really well on this test. And afterwards, if it doesn't go well, because anxiety can impair performance. Because if I make myself very anxious, I plug into my flight response. And my flight response will make me want to flee the perceived threat. So if I'm busy trying to flee the perceived threat, it's hard to be what I'm capable of being. It's hard to function at the level I'm capable of functioning. So that's how anxiety impairs performance. And once my performance is impaired, then afterwards, I'm more likely to shoot on themselves or shoot on myself afterwards, saying I should have done better. I shouldn't have made so many mistakes. So you can get into this vicious cycle. What happens eventually is that people start to feel real threatened by everyday life events. There's little things like taking a test in a school or competing in sports starts to become very threatening because of this vicious cycle they get into. I also like to remind myself that the
excuse me a second. We're almost at time, and you got 30 more slides, so you might want to figure out which one you want to skip.
I was trying to go slow because we talked
it.
about language.
Yeah.
All right. Well, depression is a quiet temper tantrum. It comes from demanding that life not be the way it is, that it be different than it is. For example, this shouldn't be happening to me. I shouldn't have to deal with this. Now, loneliness, thing I like to remind myself about that is it doesn't come from being alone. It comes from what you think about being alone. If I don't care about being with someone and they're not there, I don't feel lonely. But if I think if I want to be with them, there'll be a certain amount of loneliness if they're not there. If I think I need to be with that person, then I feel very lonely if they're not there. Now, the reason people generate more emotion than is necessarily helpful, they imagine threats where they don't exist or magnify the ones that do out of proportion to reality. Now, here's some ways people do that. One, they wrongly blame others for how they feel. They treat verbal attacks the same as a threat to life and limb. That happens in the brain. They think they need things they simply want. They demand what they simply desire. they awfulize about what happens, and they tell themselves they can't stand what they don't like. Now, I mentioned hate here. There's a lot of hate going around, so Matt's trying to encourage peace. Hate comes from perceiving others as a threat. And the problem is people often wrongly perceive others as being a threat. That's what racism basically is. Now, and racism basically is a form of label and damning. And by label and damning, we can label and damn ourselves or others, and labeling and damning others can lead to hate. Now, basically, label and damning is blatant overgeneralization. It's like calling an apple bad simply because it has a bruise. It's condemning the doer instead of the deed. Now, everybody has some innate cognitive tendencies I think we need to make people aware of. One is to note and attend to differences between us and others rather than similarities. And then to take that information we get and generalize or even overgeneralize about our life experience. For example, if a woman was sexually assaulted by a man, she might overgeneralize to think all men are bad and a threat to her, even though that's not true. Now, racism basically could be summed up as, by using the apple metaphor, this group has some bad apples, so therefore the whole group is bad, which is one overgeneralization. And then the second overgeneralization is that person is part of that group, so they must be a bad apple. Now, formula for life, this is something I think everyone should learn, this formula. The formula is event plus thoughts equals feelings, and your feelings give rise to behavior. And if you put it into words, anything that others say or do or that happens is just an event. Thoughts cause feelings, not events. And attitude is always the father of behavior, and behavior will tend to follow a person's emotions toward their life events. Now, that events plus thoughts equal feelings of behavior is like the A plus B equals C formula we learned in algebra, where A is a constant and B is a variable. If A stays the same and you change B, C changes. Well, if the event stays the same and you change your thoughts about that, your feelings will change and your behavior will change, either for the better or worse, depending on what your thoughts are. Now, Albert Ellis's ABC theory of emotions, the A was the activating event, the B was your beliefs about your event, yourself, others, and life, and C is consequences of what you feel or do as a consequence of what you believe about the event, yourself, others, and life. Now, there are a whole bunch of cognitive choices I like to remind people they have. We have these all the time. You're making them right now, listening to me. How you look at things, what meaning you attach to what happens, what you focus on, what you compare things to, what you remember about the past at any given moment, what you imagine will happen in the future, what you expect of self, others, and life, how much importance you attach to what does happen, and what you spend your time thinking about. Now, the key fact of life is there's always more than one way to look at anything and make those cognitive choices. Now, some ways will make you feel better, others will make you feel worse. Some ways will make it easier to deal with what you don't like. Other ways of looking at things or making those choices will make it harder. So this is the logic of this. There's always more than one way to look at anything. When you pick one to the exclusion of others, you make a choice. So therefore, it's your choice how you want to look at things. And thoughts cause feelings, not events. So it ends up being your choice how you really want to feel. To a large extent, you literally can choose how you want to feel. And one of the sayings we use is, no one upsets you, you upset yourself, which is good news. It's not something to be afraid of. Now, choice is your real power and control over your emotional destiny. By emotional destiny, we mean how you're going to feel in the next seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, or years. Now, here's one of the problems with believing that other people cause you to feel or make you feel the way you do. One, it needlessly puts your feelings at the seeming mercy of others and life events. You give others power they really don't have. You give away the real power you do have. You end up feeling like a victim. Help us to feel better. It implies that others and events must get better or change for the better for you to feel better. Well, my question is, what if they never do? And it also creates a perceived threat where there need not be one, because you think these other people make you feel bad, then they're a threat to you. but they're really not, because they don't make you feel bad. You do by the way you choose to look at things. And you end up feeling worse than necessary, and you miss many opportunities to feel better. So that's the problem with looking at it that way. Now, it's also important we start listening to the way we talk and be aware of how we talk about our feelings. These are all imprecise or incorrect ways to talk about feelings. If he makes me mad, well, that's not really how it happens. They make me nervous. No, they don't. That's so depressing. Well, it's not. An event is not depressing. It's what you think about it that makes it depressing or not. These kids are driving me crazy. No, they're not. They always put pressure on me. No one can really put pressure on anyone from the outside. She makes me so happy. Now, these are more precise or correct ways to talk. No one upsets me. I upset myself. I make myself mad. I'm making myself nervous. I'm depressing myself about that. I'm driving myself crazy because of the way I choose to think about these kids. Pressure comes from inside me, not outside. And no one can make me happy, and I can't make other people happy either. Now, there's a lot of ways to temporarily feel better. Some are healthy, like yoga, meditation, exercise. Others are not. For example, smoking, drinking, using drugs, overeating. Now, getting better means permanently reducing the frequency, intensity, and duration of troublesome emotions. And the only way to do that is to change the way we think. Now, another point I think is important to always remember, especially when you're a teacher or parent, we never can really control what others think, feel, say, and do. We only control what we think, feel, say, or do. Now, most people spend too much time and energy trying to control things they can't, which is what others think, feel, say, and do. And they spend too little time trying to control things they can, which is what they think, feel, say, or do. Now, the more you try to control things you can't, the more out of control your life will feel. The more you focus on trying to control things you can, like what you think, feel, say, and do, the more in control you will feel. Now, I came up with this term mental emotional karate, and it's all based on what I've just been talking about. And basically one way to deal with threats or perceived threats from other people, like attacks, verbal or cyber attacks, is if you could get to the place where your attitude is, you can think, feel, say whatever you want to about me. That's your choice. So that's not trying to control what other people think, feel, say, or do about you. But it's my choice how I think or look at myself and how I feel about myself. You don't get to make those choices for me unless I let you, and I choose not to. Now, if everybody could get to that mental attitude place, threats or people saying things about you wouldn't have any effect. Now, we are, as far as taking responsibility for how other people make themselves feel, I always like to remember and tell other people we're responsible for what we say and do, but not necessarily for how others make themselves feel about that. Other people can upset themselves as much or as little as they want to. Now, and the reason is very simple, because anything we say or do is just an event for them. It's their choice how they want to look at what we say and do. Their thoughts cause how they feel. It's their choice how they want to feel. No one upsets them, they upset themselves. Now, the last part here, I'm almost done. I also, a long time ago, learned about the difference between I messages and you messages. It was a program called TET, Teacher Effectiveness Training, from the 70s. And they talk about you messages, which are orders, threats, name calling, put downs, criticism, shitting on others. For example, you say, do what I tell you, or shut up. Those are all you messages, okay? And usually you're pointing a finger at someone else, which nobody likes a finger pointed at them. And you messages are also called solution messages because they try to take away from others their right to choose what they'll think, feel, say, or do. And nobody likes to have that taken away from them. Now, iMessages, as opposed to you messages, iMessages simply give information. For example, they tell people what you like or don't like, what you want or don't want, and maybe how you feel. Sometimes it works to tell people how you feel, sometimes it won't. They'll just use it against you. But you leave it up to others what they want to do about that. And you can actually do a technique called putting your behavior where you want your attitude to be, which means if I practice using iMessages, I get myself in a much better attitudinal place. For example, instead of being demanding and saying, thinking everybody has to do what I tell them to, Instead, I start thinking I want them to do what I tell them to. That's a much better attitudinal place to be. I'm much more less likely to generate unnecessary emotion. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Those are all things that I've, over my course of my life, feel it's important, or I like to remember, and helps me get through day to day, and also try to teach other people to help, apply that to their everyday life. That's the kind of awareness I think it helps to have. Okay, I'm done.
Right on. Excellent. Good stuff. While you were talking, I was writing as fast as I could and copying down your stuff. It's great. Yeah, really clear and really simple and helpful and practical. Good stuff, Ray. Thank you. I just have 2 slides here I wanted to finish up with to sum it all up. We are in control of our own lives, being aware that we cannot always control what happens outside of us, but we can control what happens inside of us. And to sum it all up, awareness is the first key to change. Awareness is the first key to change. Emotions matter more than we ever thought. Your inner world is yours. Emotional responsibility, we call it, right? What Ray was just talking about, that we are in charge of ourselves. Please study EQ, study yourself, study others, and share what you learn, because they do not know. They do not know. And so we're trying to consciously build peace and maybe make a difference. Try to actively create some peace inside and around you. We'd appreciate it. And everybody wins if you do that. So thank you, guys. Hope that was helpful. Going probably went too fast again, but we have so much information, too much. I put a link to the PowerPoint in the chat. I took Ray's and combined it in with mine. And so both of them are in that same PowerPoint. You can download it from Google Drive if you like.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Rivedier, you have your hand up. Got a question?
One second. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Matt and Ray. It's a wonderful presentation and very slow, and it's highly rich with rich contents. I'm very thankful to you. And of course, both way, what is emotion and awareness is well explained. So, okay, Venu sir, please.
Yeah. Matt, I had the opportunity to listen to your talk just a few days back, and it was great. Today also good. And I would like to know, is it possible for us to see Ray Mathis? Could you please turn on your video so that we'll know what you look
I'm not
like?
sure why I'm not on video here. I'm not sure why I must have missed something when I signed on.
Bottom
not able
left,
to see you.
stop
And
video.
what I
Start my
like.
video. There you go. Okay. There you go.
Okay.
There he is.
There, okay. Yeah, I don't do this very often, and when I do, I have to try to remember how to do it. And obviously I missed a step there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
like I said, I went from
you
go
showed
ahead.
many slides. The slide which I liked very much was about the anger. Gives a false sense of power, false sense of righteousness, and false sense of permission and protection. That is something really, really insightful for me, because that is really true, absolutely true. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you're more than welcome. It's a very important slide. Yeah, I remember my mentor telling me that many years ago, and it explains so much about why we have so much anger, because that's what everybody's getting from it. And that's why it's hard to get them to let go of it. So, by the way, one other thing I wanted to mention, I didn't have in the slide, is everybody has to be in the right mental and emotional place to function at the levels they're capable of and want to. And that's what we have in schools. The big problem in schools is we have too many kids who aren't at the best possible mental and emotional place. And that's why they don't function at the level we'd like them to. That's why they eventually shut down and even drop out. And that's why it's so important that in schools, we need to teach kids how to better manage what goes on inside their own heads. If we can't get them in that better mental and emotional place, we're always going to have kids functioning below the level they're capable of, that we want them to, and they want them to. They want themselves to. So we really got to work on that. Unfortunately, in the United States, everybody, when you talk about mental health or everybody right away thinks you're doing therapy in the classroom, and they put up, nope, don't want it. We don't want that. Don't try to do therapy with my kid. We're not doing therapy. We're doing education. We're teaching kids how life works, just like we do that in every other subject. We give them formulas. We teach them how life works and teach them how to use that information to their advantage. But unfortunately, people have this big, like phobic response to talking about feelings and thoughts and all that. It's like, well, you're trying to get inside my head. No, I'm trying to teach you how to manage what goes on inside your own head.
You get inside your
Just like I teach you how to read, how I teach you how to write, teach you how to do
Yeah.
math and chemistry.
Got
It's
it.
just no different. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. So there's a
Okay.
lot more we could be doing that we're not doing.
So you are doing a
I was
very
pretty
wonderful work.
Can I say one thing?
I was
For
pretty
example,
disappointed.
think about teachers. We've got thousands and thousands of teachers out in classrooms, and most of them have what we call an external locus control. When something happens in the classroom, they're thinking, that kid's driving me crazy, or that kid really ticks me off. That's not how it is. That's not how the world really works. So if the teachers have it wrong, then we're never going to get to be able to teach the kids to get it right. We have to start with the teachers. That should be part of their professional preparation, teaching them how things really work inside their own head. And then they can pass that on to their children, their students, and then we'll be in good shape. But we've got to go back and start with the teachers.
Yeah. Okay.
That reminds me of
Excellent,
that old saying, who will build the cat? Now, who will build the cat? The teachers or the cats? Now, how do we build the cats?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ray. It's wonderful. Now, can you explain something about the FID? It's a package you are told, frequency, intensity, and duration. Can you say something about it a little more?
Well, it's just a framework for analyzing or, how you're feeling. And you always have to look at how often you have the feeling, how intense or strong it is, and how long it lasts. And that will determine whether it's helpful or unhelpful. Yeah, and that the problem, for example, a person with anxiety disorder or anger problems, they just have anger or anxiety too often. It gets too intense, and it lasts for too long. So the goal is always to try to reduce the frequency, intensity, and duration. So by being aware of the three parameters, or whatever, I guess parameters is the best word. By being aware of those three parameters, it gives you something to work on. It's some way to focus on what you want to do. I want to bring the frequency down of my anger, anxiety, or depression, or anything else. I want to bring the intensity down, and I want to bring the duration down. And then there's ways to do that. And I think that's what we're going to do in the third session on action or no action. That's what we'll actually, at least I'll try to teach you how REBT teaches people to do that.
Okay, thank you. I have one question about Matt also. So you are talking about purposeful positivity. And there is two examples. One is gratitude and another is forgiveness. Is there any another activity? Is there any activity-based procedure for this purposeful positivity?
Was your question, are there actions for that?
Yeah,
Purposeful
activity.
positivity. Yeah.
Some activities there.
The cool part about purposeful positivity is any action that you do could be for the purpose of being positive, right? You can pick up a piece of trash off the sidewalk and throw it in the garbage, and for the purpose of improving the world, right? For the purpose of you feeling like you're helping out, for the purpose of making a difference. So you can, any action can be, it's deemed almost, I guess, almost any can be deemed to be positive to yourself. So if done intentionally and done with good attitude, right?
Okay, thank you. നമ്മുടെ ഇന്നത്തെ പവർ പോയിന്റ് നമ്മുടെ ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ ഇട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. പവർ പോയിന്റ് കോപ്പി ചെയ്യാം. PowerPoint is available in the chat box. You can just copy it and see. Too much information is there. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ? Anybody else to talk? Unmute you. One Megha Singh is there. Who is this? Shaji sir, please.
Anyway, here both the student and the teacher, both of them presented, Matt, Perelstein and Ray Matthias. Anyway, awareness and acceptance and action, 3 stages. You intend to proceed. Today you handled awareness, and to get awareness, we have to start inside. Also, thereby showing outside, one has to deal with our negatives. We have to be consciously conscious. We have.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Megha Singh is there. Can you talk something?
Purposeful positivity, exaggerate enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is very much necessary, and exercise optimism, wonderful coinages, FID, frequency, intensity, all things were explained very well. And I think Ray Matthias has repeated some of the things that he presented the other day. Anyway, Matt Perelstein has been took great care to make the presentation slow, so that we were able to follow it. Anyway, thank you, sir. And anyway, by creating more opportunities for others to listen to, Sabu sir is creating.
Thank you, sir. Well put.
Thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Some comments, please, from anywhere. Joseph John, sir. Alpha Matthew. Anybody else? Because these 2 speakers are wonderfully talked, so you have to give at least some comments. Anybody else? Jagadi ma'am, George sir. Yes, Megha Singh, please. Please unmute.
Greetings, everyone. Yes, I was just attending the seminar, and I found it really helpful. And I especially like the concept of FID, which is also there in the chat box, that frequency, intensity, and duration one. And like out of all the things that I have collected from this informative webinar, I think I would like to work on all my negative emotions from now on. So it was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Can you just introduce? You are from?
Pardon, sir?
Just introduce yourself.
Oh, sir, I'm Megha Singh from Lucknow. I'm a part of this Nurture Life internship, which has Matt sir as our guide, instructor.
So you are the brand ambassador of EQ in India, you know?
No, not really, sir. No, I wouldn't call myself that. That's a big title.
Anyway, you are welcome. Anyway, you are welcome. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else? Joseph Jones?
Thanks for coming, Megha.
So, Matt, how many students are there in India?
Well, we're doing a workshop, or well, a certificate program with the interns. There's 40, and they're college students, psych students, and they're wonderful to work with. They love this information. They're interested and alive and wanting to know, and they're already pretty sharp. And so we're being able to do some wonderful things with them. I'm excited about doing it. So. Yeah, there's 51 total, I think, and 40 of them are in the class, and we've had 2 of our 5 weeks, and it's going really well, right, Megha? Do you agree?
Yes.
Yes, Megha, you are also welcome. You can take classes here on this platform.
Oh no, sir, I'm not so much still not that much qualified to take classes.
Just visualize that you are taking class this platform, so that it is possible.
The trick is always to be simple enough to be good. That's what you always want to strive for, simplicity, because the simpler you can make it, the more likely people are to apply it to their everyday life. If it's too complicated, you know, when I was a paramedic, they used to have doctors come in and razzle and dazzle us with all this information. It's any better on the rescue call. You know, you have to keep it simple to be good.
That's fine. Thank you, sir. Joseph John, sir, you have something? Joseph, sir.
Let me thank Mr. Matt and Ray Mathis for this wonderful presentation. We have
Thank you.
a lot of takeaways today, sir. Lot of wonderful points to make our life peaceful and happy. And one thing I want to mention is you said we can better deal with negatives, the better we can create positives. That was a wonderful point. By dealing with our negatives in a better way, we can create positives. That was
Yes.
very touching. And then
Yep.
the PPT was so wonderful and simple. And I haven't seen such a beautiful PPT anywhere else. And anger gives a false sense of power, righteousness, permission, protection. So those points have attracted me very well. Like that, so many were there, so many. Anger comes from making demand of others, self and life. Beautiful points. Thank you, sir. I can. The time doesn't allow me to say more. Once again, thank you.
Ray, I am a physician. I am in Kansas. I am a primary care physician. And your comment about the doctors making things complicated when you're a paramedic and all those things, I 100%, I agree with that one. I have seen 80 to 90% of the doctors, they are poor communicators, and they always make it very difficult for the layman to understand. And the patients, they get thoroughly confused what they are talking about. So you're right. So simplification, that's what I always try to do. And I'm sure that is a Sabuji, he would also agree. In my talks, always, I make sure that is whatever I say is, it won't be misinterpreted. It is easy for others to misinterpret. Thank you.
Well, I taught 14-year-olds for 33 years, so I had to make it simple enough to be good. It forced, the necessity is the mother of invention. So if you're going to explain it to 14-year-olds, you better really have it simple. So.
And for me, I need to make it simple for me to understand it. So that's why I use the hashtags and try and sum things up, because otherwise I'm clueless. So.
Well, the simpler you make it for other people, that's how it gets stored in your own brain, and that makes it easier for you to apply it to your everyday life. If it's too complicated, it's just too hard to apply it. The simpler you can make it, the better it is for everybody.
Yep.
I have been working at the VA Medical Center, veterans, and there usually they say that whatever you say, it should be easily understandable to a 6th grader. The language you use should be understandable to a 6th grader. So that is what.
Good idea.
That's what I do.
That's smart. Yeah, right.
And actually,
that's good advice.
One of the things Dr. Ellis used to say is that many of the people we have to deal with who are struggling with emotion very often haven't really, he used Piaget's model about formal operations. Many people haven't gone through all those stages. So we have to keep it simple in order for the people who are struggling the most, because sometimes, there's a saying I had learned from one of my mentors. It said, it's from Tao philosophy. It says, advice is stupid because fools won't use it and wise men already know it. So some of the people, I would never call anybody a fool, but some of the people were trying to help. The advice isn't going to work because they're not in the right mental and emotional place to act on it, access and act on it. So we have to dumb it down, keep it simple so that they're more able to access and act on that advice in their everyday life.
Good point.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else is there to talk something? Alpha is there, George sir. George sir, are you hearing? Okay. Anita ma'am is there. Jagati ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Hey.
Anyway, excellent presentation. We get a lot of information from this session. Presentation about importance of feelings is very good and interesting. And good thoughts that peace must first be created within ourselves. That is a wonderful thought. For positive mental health, we must keep awareness acceptance and action. That is important. First is awareness. Awareness comes from thought and feelings. And that is also good information for us. EQ is one of the key to happiness. That is, EQ is the study of you, we, and I. All is consisting ourselves. So happiness will come if all have happiness, then we can feel only that things. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Anudhaji. So thank you, Mr. Matt and Mr. Ray. Wonderful talk. We are waiting for the next session and coming Saturday about.
I'll be on time next time.
Yeah.
All right.
Completely lost track of days here. I got to go back to being a grandpa now. So
So we want to continue that same talks in the next year also. We are waiting for that. So make things even smaller, little bit smaller, because otherwise we can't accept all these things. That's the problem. But anyway, you are doing a wonderful service. So we are ready to accept also. We can have enough time.
Right.
Don't worry. So we will meet again the next Saturday and the last Saturday of this year also. Okay. Thereafter we will decide how to move further.
Yep.
So thank you very
Great.
much once again. Have a good day. Thank you and good night.
Bye,
Thank you,
all.
sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.